Hey guys, Elizabeth here, and we're going to talk about a game that I have a very deep love-hate relationship with. Q Bert Rebooted was developed by Gonzo Games and Sideline Amusements. It's on Steam for $4.99 on PC, Mac, and Linux. There's some talk of it coming to iOS and Android, but not much info of when that would possibly happen yet. It was released on July 1st of this year. I read also that it was the 8th or the 9th, but it's written on Steam as the 1st, so that's what I'm going with. Q Bert was originally made as the quarter-grubbing arcade game in 1982, developed and published by Gottlieb. It was and still is a very challenging game, but people didn't want to stop trying, so it ended up being the third most successful arcade game of all time. On Steam, you can play as Q Bert Classic or Q Bert Rebooted. The Classic makes me want to rip my hair out, and the Rebooted is way easier, a bit dumbed down to save people's sanity, like mine. After you choose which you're going to play, the Q Bert Classic has you click on the arcade and walks you through some quick rules and how to play. Q Bert Rebooted starts with a map that looks like a roller coaster in space, so you can drag to the level you want to play. When you play the Rebooted version, it counts you down to 1 to start, but in the Classic, once you see Q Bert up there, you just go for it. Your goal is to change the colors on the blocks by jumping on them. There are hexagons in the Rebooted, but squares in the original. You have to jump up and down in the Classic. If you try to follow a row around, you'll just fall off into space and die. In Rebooted, you can just jump around the edge without falling off. I guess it's the hexagon shape that changes it. But I didn't get too far with the Classic because I was so frustrated playing it, I nearly rage quit. But as far as I know, you're always playing on a pyramid shape. In Rebooted, the shape can eventually change up and have maybe 3 lines of hexagons with circles in the middle or just a clump of hexagons. There's more variety the farther you get in the levels. The levels really get more challenging fast in the Classic. I was excited when I got to level 2, round 2. Speaking of which, there are 4 rounds per level in the Classic and 3 per level in the Rebooted. In Rebooted, I easily made it through the first 12 levels. I didn't get too frustrated till about level 16. Although there are different challenges in the Rebooted, it's easy to just make it through a level, but they also challenge you to do it in a certain amount of time or to score a certain amount of points. Eventually, you need to jump on squares twice to change the color twice, and sometimes you can't re-jump on a square or it'll take your color change away. There are some lovely enemies like Coily along the way. If I could have reached through the screen and strangled Coily during the Classic, I would have. Coily appears in the first round of the first level right away in the Classic, but the Rebooted lets you get used to the game a little before he appears. Coily is a purple snake who comes down the steps like a ball and then turns into a snake and follows you all over the board. You can use discs to get away from him or any of the other enemies. The discs carry you to the top and usually the enemies die, but sometimes Coily still stays on, so you have to time it right when he's about to jump off the edge, especially on the Rebooted when you get to the point where there may be more than one Coily on the board. There are some new enemies in the Rebooted version. There's Homer, who only jumps when you jump, and then he tries to cut you off and jump on you. Uppercut is a boxing glove that can punch you off the map from any location, but then there's the treasure chest who just jumps around you and you get points if you jump on him. Basically, any color you see on the board that is not green, stay away from, but you want to get the green guys, especially because they take away the colors you changed and you do get points for knocking them off too. There are also new characters that you can unlock in the updated version. There are 7 new playable characters: Qzert, Qbertha, Qbot, Qzilla, QT, Qknight, and Qnicorn, and they really do look like their names. Qzert is like a wizard, Qnicorn resembles a unicorn, so you get the idea. In the Classic, you're given 3 lives, which I do believe you gain them back when you get to the 2nd level, but in the Rebooted version, you get 5 lives, which you also do regain as you bump up levels. When you lose 1 life in the Classic, you continue wherever you died from on the board. In the Rebooted, you start back up at the top of the level. When you die completely in the Classic, you start back at level 1, round 1, but in the Rebooted version, you can start back at the last level you beat. Hence, less frustration. They may have this in the Classic too, but I didn't get far enough to know, but I'm pretty sure this is new with the update version. They have bonus rounds where you can collect gems to earn more points. There are also 9 achievement goals in the Rebooted version, like ride 50 discs, die 100 times, get crushed by Coily 25 times, unlock all Q Bert skins, complete Q Bert Rebooted, and there's more, but I thought it was pretty funny that some of these are things you'd normally try to avoid, and it's an achievement, like to die 100 times or get get crushed by Coily, which I actually ended up doing plenty of times anyway. Q Bert also speaks in Q Bertese, so little symbols pop up, and when he dies, he says bye-bye in his Q Bertese voice, but I totally get the symbols because I'm saying things in my head that represent those symbols since the game can be so frustrating. In the classic, there's not really any music besides a jingle in between rounds of levels. It's more of sound effects in the game, but in Rebooted, the music's really upbeat and bouncy-like. The sound effects and Q Bert talking randomly every few moments can get a bit annoying. You can really see the difference in the graphics. The classic really represents the true 1982 Q Bert with 2D pixelated graphics, while the updated version has 3D graphics. The backgrounds tend to be dark, like a night sky. You can see the stars in the rebooted version, while the pyramid or other shaped platform is pretty bright and stands out. And obviously, Q Bert is bright with his orange body and especially stands out with his long signature nose. You can play with a keyboard, controller, or mouse. I ended up liking the mouse the best, even though it felt like the easy way out at first, but when I tried the controller, it was awful. I used the Xbox One controller, but you couldn't use the D-pad, only the joystick, and jumping was too specific, so I just kept falling off the side. It's definitely addicting, and I am hooked. So even with my love-hate relationship with Q Bert, I definitely think it's worth getting, especially for $5, but only you can decide that for yourself, so let me know what you think. I'm Elizabeth Panders with The Gray Gaming.